This morning, I think we've had a lot of discussions about employability. The truth is, when you do an internship, if I send a student to, say, Jessica at the Ashesi Entrepreneurship Center, that student may be asked to do some photocopies, do some Excel here and there, based on what Jessica needs at that point. But if the student is running a project, they are going to have to conceptualize it, project plan, do a budget, connect with stakeholders, implement, evaluate what they are doing, usually try and mobilize the resources. So they get a range of skills that may ultimately make them even more employable than what an internship may give you. So there are some very interesting aspects of universities and the work that they can and should do with their communities. And we want to explore that in a very practical way. So I'm going to give my panelists an opportunity to give us an overview, a 30,000 feet overview of what they do, and then we'll delve straight into the discussions. I'll ask just 2 or 3 questions, and I'm hoping that you can ask them even more questions so we can keep this very energetic. My name is Samuel Judakwa. I'm Assistant Director for Experiential Learning and Outreach Programs at Ashesi. My panelists will introduce themselves first, and then after that, we can take an overview of the work they do in their institution. So, starting with you, Bruce.
Thanks, Jude. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Bruce Darmans. I'm from Nelson Mandela University. I'm the director in the engagement office. I oversee 3 sections. The first section is called career services. The second is short learning programs. It's an important section to generate third stream income for the institution. The third section is capacity building and engagement. And the fourth section is a newly established strategic section to help the university reimagine engagement as we try to deepen our role to be in service of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Frank.
Thank you. My name is Frank Wiggle. I oversee the Community Relations Department of Pan-Atlantic University. Well, basically, it's more to do with, identifying yourself with the particularly society you find yourself in. And the most important thing is to put at the back of our minds that, are we members of that community or not? And how do we identify ourselves with that community? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think Bruce can start for us. Bruce, what does community engagement entail at Nelson Mandela University?
Thanks, Jude. So the overarching question that we're looking at as we're trying to reimagine engagement is, what are universities good for? Given some of the historical and contemporary challenges that in our context, South Africa face. So when we think of engagement in general, context plays a big role. Currently, from the emerging data, we recognize in South Africa that we almost have a triple helix of marginalization. The first helix refers to the historical marginalization, that's pre-democratic dispensation 1994, where the majority of our black population was marginalized economically, socially, culturally, at a number of levels. Then we have post-democratic marginalization, and I heard a lot of some of the challenges we are presently experiencing. Government not delivering on basic services, corruption, lack of basic lack of basic service provision to our communities. And then the third helix we identify as the in-community helix, because we recognize that even in a post-democratic dispensation, our communities are quite complex. And we definitely need to have a very complex type of framework when engaging with our communities. So against this backdrop, Nelson Mandela University has embraced Vision 2030 with its apex priority to be in service of society. And the key method to respond, to be in service of society, is then co-construct sustainable solutions to respond to some of these historical and contemporary challenges faced by our society. So we choose to do this by exploring the intersection between the three missions of the university: learning and teaching, research and innovation, and then the third mission, engagement. So these are the three historic missions of the university in general. And we know that engagement has always been regarded as the stepchild, as part of this under-resourced, as colleagues have mentioned in some of the programs as well. When the panel of the Vice Chancellor, or the Chancellors or Vice Chancellors spoke, again, I was just reaffirmed the importance of leadership in taking the direction around a strategic intent in the university. And I must say, at our university, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sibongile Mutwa, is quite clear that she will be championing the engagement mission through engaging with our various communities. So when we speak of community, Jude and Philip, we speak of a business community, a group of people organized around a central point. So it could be a geographic community, it can be an NGO community, it can be a government community. And against that backdrop, Vision 2030 is directing the reimagination of engagement. Last year, our council adopted a new engagement strategy called the Institutional Stakeholder Community Engagement Strategy, because you have to back vision with policy. And this serves as a strategic guide to, in particular, encourage multidiscipline and transversal collaborations. One of our core values is resource stewardship, and we heard here the challenges that universities are facing in mobilizing enough resources. So it does require us to think very carefully on how do we work in a coherent, collaborative way to ensure that we can produce the best, not only for our students through the intersection of the missions, but also then be reactive to some of the challenges that societies face, because what we recognize is that our students come from these societies. And as higher education has become more accessible, so our students come in with some of the societal challenges in the space. And if we do not organize in a certain way, I think trying to deliver on a quality education for these students almost becomes an impossible task. So as part of our mission, we are aligned to the National Development Plan of the country, where redress is a big part, the Africa 2063 agenda, and as well as the SDGs. However, we are starting to advocate for a more African epistemic process, because too many of the solutions are being imported. And we're saying there's a rich knowledge base on the continent. And it's important, and the arguments are starting to emerge, that we embrace the epistemic process, as a colleague from Kenya put it once, with great humility. But humility, as understood, is that we are not trying to contest anyone else's knowledge around the table. We are looking for a seat at the table. And we want to insert these African epistemic process to be responsive to the real challenges that we are facing. So in conclusion, Jude, the stakeholder community engagement framework advocates organization around three principles. The first principle is the principle of convergence. That is, how do we get together when we talk about these issues? And how do we recognize the multiple knowledges that are at play? The second one is solidaristic reciprocity. Given South African history, we're saying that those that have more should give more. But everyone has something to contribute in the discourse in trying to find solutions that are sustainable to the peculiar context that we find ourselves in. And the final organizing principle is then the principle of multiple forms of output. One of the speakers yesterday mentioned that we should move away where all this beautiful knowledge that we have. If question one community member asked, where do all your PhDs go and your masters? And someone said they're at the back of the library gathering dust. So we want to make sure that the knowledge we generate in is contemporary and responsive to the very challenges. So we've been critiqued as higher education universities as a fantastic talk shop of brilliant ideas. Where do we see the demonstration of this? So our demonstration is through our signature project called the Hubs of Convergence. There is multiple transversal, multidiscipline collaborations around 8 thematic hubs that seems to reflect the challenges faced in society, identified in our national development plans and the 2063 agenda. The first hub is called individual and collective wellness, because mental health has become a major issue, especially post-pandemic, for staff and learners, and our communities in particular. Food sovereignty is a crisis in our country. Food is a crisis in our country. Gender engagement, community-driven initiatives, knowledge communication and application, education hub, indigenous knowledge systems, and sports, arts and culture. So we see a fantastic convergence of the sciences, the natural and social sciences, trying to make sense how to respond to the lived reality of not only our students, but our communities as well. Because the one question that was asked by a minister, you have a fantastic engineering department receiving awards, but we've got the country with the highest pothole rates on the continent. Aren't we sitting in a contradiction when we boast about having great engineering type of facilities? So there have been many lessons to, I've learned the trick, you say, in conclusion, until you have still half of the way, and now in conclusion, Jude, the real conclusion.
Yes.
The key lessons that are emerging from engaging in this, being very conscious to engage in this particular way, because it's a very conscious decision supported by leadership, is that context matters. Don't just think one size fits all. Okay? So we advocate for the framing of frameworks rather than models. Secondly, language. You know, sometimes we use language that's beyond the comprehension of ourselves. At higher education institution, what's still about communities as well. And it's also about being honoring and respectful of the local languages. We have 11 languages in our country. I speak English and Afrikaans, and a little bit of isiXhosa. Whose problem is that? The communities or mine? University tends to make it a community problem if the community doesn't understand the language that we're trying to bring. You have to have organization. You can't just assume that this is another nice to do. You have to build relationships. Relationships is key, and that's why I love the collaboration, this hub idea. Just sitting and listening, how we make ourselves vulnerable in not knowing. And through not knowing, it becomes a fantastic gray area where we collaborate in ways that saves resources, values knowledges, and try to integrate those knowledges as real responses to some of the contexts we face. This work takes time. KPIs want to be measured over a year. Sometimes building a relationship takes a year. How do we think carefully about time and doing this work in meaningful ways? And then resources, both human and material resources. This is intense. It requires a commitment, both at the human and a material level. But we think that if we truly want to be responsive to challenges, we have to put ourselves in the positions where communities can see the university as an equal stakeholder, not an elevated stakeholder, because we cannot fix society alone. We have to work, we recognize, in a complementary way with the different type of agencies that's present in our community. Thanks, Jude.
Thank you very much, Bruce. So, Frank, we have this really beautiful slide from Bruce outlining the the dimensions of their community engagement work. He has spoken a lot about context. I know your context is different too, and we want to understand how that context informs the purpose of your community engagement work and the kind of activities that you undertake.
Thank you very much, Jude. Well, first, it's important, I describe the kind of community we are in. We are in, well, it's defined by the local government. Say it's Ibejuleki local government. It is one of the, hitherto it used to be one of the very, very rural areas in Lagos and even in Nigeria, too, so to speak, to the level that in the past 20 years, this particular community witnessed very, very rapid development. In the past 20 years, we're talking about a high-class petroleum refinery, a free trade zone, a deep sea port, a university, that's Pan Atlantic University, several other highbrow private primary and secondary schools, and very, very sizable amount of highbrow residential estates. So you can imagine if one community experiences this sort of shock, what happens? It's going to be a serious displacement. We are displacing, so to speak, the indigenous community. And before you know it, you're not going to find it a very, very interesting relationship. Thank goodness Pan Atlantic University is one of those people who came in to displace this community. As a matter of fact, we acquired our own 100 hectares of land from 13 families. So you can imagine, 13 families. They say, well, these people came in here, and then so we've lost our farmland, we've lost the land that, hitherto, our great-grandfathers were attached to. I think every one of us here are Africans. We know what land means to us, how attached we are to land. So you can imagine these foreigners I described, the university, highbrow, primary and secondary schools that are private, highbrow estates, and they don't take a very small piece of land. They take heavy. And sometimes they even come with additional baggage of staff who are going to now come and live in this community to change the community, so to speak. So already the community is beaten, just like Bruce said. They become marginalized economically. Now, how do PAU engage this sort of community? One of our core values is the spirit of service. And we take this very, very seriously. And it is from this particular angle the university drives its own engagement. It drives it such that the students are involved, the members of faculty of the university are involved, and even some senior management staff are involved. But how? We're in the business of education. And so we got involved in the education of this community, directly. First, it's important I state that, one of the, objectives of Pan Atlantic University is to have 15% of its admission at any point in time to be on one form of scholarship or the other. So now we are talking about a community that is magically, marginalized economically. So these other people are the best people to give scholarship to. And now we are setting up a very high-class university in their community. High class not only by name, but heavily in terms of merit. And we are talking about a community that, it is not well driven to drive up, that they rely heavily on the public, facilities. That is government-provided facilities. Those of us who are from Lagos and Nigeria know what it means like to go to a public secondary school, a public primary school. So these are the people we are saying that we'll give you scholarship, but first you have to pass your, secondary school leaving certificate examinations, and then secondly, you have to pass the entrance examination into the university. These guys are not going to make it. So it means you have scholarship you don't want to give to anybody. Now, what do we do? I'll say first is, I'll talk about our students. Our students, you can imagine students, in Pan-Atlantic University. I can see some of them here, they are not, they are on that high level.
From a certain socio-economic bracket.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm talking about a school where, the tuition fee is 2 million naira and above and stuff like that. So social bracket high. But these are students who on their own went into the small villages left in this community to bring the little children, the ones in primary school, together and say, we want to teach you how to read and write. And the students were doing this every Saturday. They stepped forward, and said, okay, now that we have secondary school pupils in this community as well, and none of them is qualified to come in, and where they are qualified to come in, they're not strong enough. They don't have the capacity to hold down, the scholarship. So eventually, they have to be eased out. So it means, the secondary school pupils in this place needs that, capacity building. That is where, the tutorial programs that we have in place comes into question. First, there are, 6 public senior secondary schools in the entire local government. And we said, okay, this tutorial is going to be strictly for pupils in the public secondary schools. We began with a science tutorial. We said, okay, the program is strictly for, we were going to do tutorials to help you with, your external examinations. In West Africa, we call it WAEC. That's senior certificate examination. And then the second one is the, university entrance examination. So that is what this tutorial was about. And who were the people taking care of these tutorials? The members of faculty of the university. And the students were the coordinator of these programs. Where does this program take place? It takes place in the university. Hey, we're talking about 60 pupils. They come to the university. I'm quite sure if they are of, marginally displaced, economically, you will have difficulty in getting punctuality. You will have difficulty in getting them in class. No, I can do well to tell you here that, we have almost 100% punctuality rate. How do you do that? Beautiful. It's through collaboration with, interestingly, the local government authority. By the time we approach the local government authority that we have this in mind, we want to do something like this. He said, we will be glad to join hands with you. We know where they all are. We are going to go to the families. We are going to get their consents. And we will equally provide transportation. So we had a situation where there was transportation for the pupils to come to the school to be taught by university lecturers and some senior staff members of the university. We had that going for a science tutorial. We had that going also for some social science subjects too. In the course of it, we had, I think it got the attention of the state government that made it like, hey, we are interested in something like this. If you can think about doing something like this for our people, let us meet you halfway. What about those other people who they've left secondary school? They are now doing one thing or the other, but they would like to do some more. And that was how the Elevate Them program came to be. The Elevate Them program is is a STEM program. That's science, technology, education, engineering, and mathematics, where they receive 3 months vocational training for ready employment. And one of the attachments to this particular program is that once you're done, we should get you a job. Now, what has been the result so far? We are talking about people who ordinarily, once they are done with the secondary education, okay, I'm going into trading or I'm going into some other thing. University, oh no, we don't go to university here. So you now speak with them about, oh, you come to PAU, hey, you are joking. PAU, first thing first, you guys pay 2 million. So we can't go there, it's sort of the question. So when that's a scholarship to come into PAU. I suspect there is a trick somewhere here. That's what we had. And when these people now did the first cohort, I think the first cohort, to test the public, external examination was last year. 30 of them. Out of these 30, I can say, 30 of them were qualified to take the examination. Only 29 took the examinations. One was like, I'm sorry, this is just too much for me. I can't do it. That is, I've just got to join my parents to do some petty trading. So 29 took the examination. 22 of them were qualified to gain admission into PAU. And I can tell you that last year, PAU had the most stringent, qualification requirement. 22 of them were qualified. But unfortunately, none of them applied to PAU. The vice chancellor said, Frank, you've been doing this thing for 2 years now. This is the first result. Yeah. And nobody applied to the university. Yeah. Of what use is it? Why? I said, I don't know. So I approached and I spoke with the pupils. I said, well, this is your result. It's so beautiful. But I'm surprised none of you applied to PAU. Mm-hmm. He said, we didn't think you were serious when you said you give us scholarship. Yeah. So it was that. So to the level we got to this. And I'll tell you what, this had given some sort of, comfort to the university. It has helped to develop a serious, cordial relationship between the university and the community. Yeah. And this part of it, I noticed very strongly in the sense that, when you don't think about security, that is about being burgled, yeah, it either means that you have a very strong security apparatus in place, or the entire environment secures you. Yeah. So this cordial relationship, as a matter of fact, has helped us a lot. Because if we compare it to other institutions around us, not other organizations around us, they have very strong gates, very, very aggressive-looking security men. Yeah. I was talking to Lydia earlier.
Frank, that's something I can relate with. I remember I grew up in a small town in the middle belt of Ghana, and I remember very clearly there was a university coming up those days, and there were agitations in the community where the university was planned to be built. I remember because of that, in fact, schools, primary schools in the area had to close down because people were not sure about what was going to happen, whether it was going to get violent. What I'm interested in now is, what do you plan for the next cohort to see to as many of them apply to PAU? Is that something you are considering?
Yes.
Okay. So I would want us to. I'll come back later and get a sense of for you, in light of what you have done in your institutions, what do you think is the case for investors to be engaged with their investees? And if a university decided to go that way, what would be one or two things that you would recommend that they consider? I would quickly go over what, inspired by Bruce, I won't use the word model, the example we have at Ashesi. I mean, so it's quite similar. We're also a very much mission-driven institution. And so, our mission is raising ethical entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. And so citizenship is a core pillar. And as part of that, we have what we call the Leadership Seminar Series, where students in leadership, there are 4 modules in that series, culminates in Leadership 4, which requires students to go out there and serve for 40 hours. Now, because of that, students started, coming up with all kinds of projects to intervene in various problems they see in society. And that has fostered a certain culture of student projects around social enterprises, sometimes even for profits, but with a social good in mind. And so, for example, the picture you see down is a project Tech Era. It started as a simple IT training project to disadvantaged basic school kids. And when they extended this to children with disabilities, and now Tech Era has evolved into an adaptive technology company in Ghana. But there's also a lot of institutional modeling. Up there is a picture of the Ashesi community joining our immediate host community, Brekusu, to undertake a cleanup exercise in 2015. And then after that, we converted a decades-old dam site to a sports ground and then placed some skip containers there. So we do a lot of this. There's a lot of institutional modeling, and then there's a lot of student initiatives inspired by academic work and then institutional modeling. And because we are known for this, folks reach out to us. So the picture on your right, the gentleman in the blue blazer is Abu. Abu is the CEO of GE Ghana. And he has founded an organization called Making Learning Happen. He wants to provide furniture for 4,000 basic schools that do not have furniture. And he reached out to us. The lady in green is Nachula. She's our Director of Strategic Partnerships, on how Ashesi students can work with Abu's organization to create an electronic platform to coordinate work between the Making Learning Happen team, schools, beneficiary schools, donors, and then the carpenters who would make the actual furniture. So a lot of the folks you see there, Eugene to your extreme right, Khadija, Delali, Dave, they were the Ashesi team, and then Abraham. These were students who came together and then built that platform for Abu and his team, and they have rolled this out there. So those are the contours of what we do there. So there's a lot of similarities, but there are some differences also. And so I'm sure people are wondering, how do I also do this if I'm interested? So Frank, because you have the mic, I'll begin with you. In 2 minutes max, if you are going to make a pitch based on what you have seen or what you have done to folks here, what would be your pitch to them that this is something you should take seriously? And what 1 or 2 tips would you have for them? And when Bruce goes, I will open the floor to our audience so we can get more questions from them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jude. Ordinarily, it's always important. The first thing first is to recognize where you are at. Can you develop an identity with this particular location where you are at? Can you assume, the identity of that community to the level that they will so accept you and make you one of them? One of the things that happened to Pan Atlantic University was, we acquired a piece of land, 100 hectares of land from 13 families. In the course of our relationship with them, our relationship stemmed from first, say, okay, because we are close, employment opportunity if you are qualified, because we are close, scholarship opportunity if you are qualified, because we are close, we will attend your cultural activities if you can, and you will attend us. And we were always having these meetings like, oh yes, we want to know what is going on. Are we meeting all the things that we said we want to do? And the families came back later, and then we had, I think the last meeting we had with them, they said, oh, we want to let you know that we are no longer 13 families. We are now 14. And I said, which is the 14th family? He said, it's PAU.
And Frank, by families, you mean families in a more African sense, right? These are extended, large families, not
Yes,
nuclear.
yes, families in terms of names.
Okay.
They are the owners. They were the owners.
So almost like clans.
Sorry? Clans, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but in this case, when you say clan, you have to go a little bit deeper into Nigeria because,
Okay.
Clans, you a little bit more complex.
Okay.
But in this case, you can have, say, this one is a Wiggle family.
Okay.
This one is a Jude family.
Okay.
And all of them are Wiggle, all of them are Jude, all of them are
Okay.
Bruce.
Okay.
There were 13 of them.
Okay.
They owned that particular area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was almost like a small township until all these industries and schools and all that came.
Yeah.
Bruce, what would be your case for why investors should do this, and just one or two tips?
Yeah. No, I think the question is, what are we good for? I think that should be the case. Cannot just be good in producing graduates that will seek jobs that are becoming shrinking where we're not. So we have to understand how we better serve our communities in general. And then a scholarship gap is not necessarily a community problem. So I think it's critical that we need to identify problems with communities instead of going and telling communities what their problems are. And then I think a great opportunity for universities now is the funding that's available, especially when you do this transdisciplinary work. Because those colleagues that know the funding regimes will see that many of the asks are asking now for a demonstration of the convergence of the natural and social sciences in trying to develop proper responses to these challenges. And a third opportunity that's emerging by doing work in this way are the extra sites that are opening now for work-integrated learning for our students. Because traditionally when we prepare our students, it's only for industry. Now after COVID, our industries took a major bash, especially the small emerging industries. What we are experimenting with and exploring now is actually the placement of students in their disciplines in these different types of engagement projects where they go apply their knowledge now in response to a challenge that's there, and that is regarded and recognized as official experiential learning linked to curricular outcomes. So we think there are major opportunities in this space as well, but universities will have to look critically at themselves. We're going to have to constantly be interrogating what is our purpose in society. We have a major issue with graduate employability at the moment, but still we're not looking at how do we support industry, how do we support thriving communities, and where do we expect these graduates to find employment if we are not going to play a meaningful role in becoming catalysts in other sectors of society. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Please, I'm happy to take questions, comments from our audience now. Yes. So, for example, if you grew up in the Ashanti region or certain parts of the Volta region in Ghana, there's kente weaving. There's a $980 billion global textiles and fabrics industry. And kente, thankfully, is already quite a global brand. But how do you exploit this fully? Yes, you need some technological competence, some ability to do a brand, some ability to fundraise, but you also need to know what patterns and who you can work with, even if it's inventing a machine to more efficiently produce kente. But you can't know that if you spend all your time at Ashesi or the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. You need to spend some time with the kente weavers before you can extract that knowledge and fully develop the value thereof. So what Bruce says about the employability or value creation or the economic benefits as you genuinely serve is very real. And I'm happy to take your comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Desmond from Bears University of Technology, Nigeria. First, I would like to thank the panel for sharing their knowledge. Then my question goes to Mr. Frank. Sir, your scholarship, is it tuition only or otherwise? That's the first question. Now, the second question is, if you are bringing people from the community to mix with your regular students, do you have any program to support the integration? Because somebody that is coming from a very well-to-do family and otherwise. So how do you manage the dichotomy? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. There's another question. Okay, two actually. So we'll take both and then Frank and Bruce may respond.
Okay, thank you. Professor Caroline from Federal University of Technology, Mina. It's not really a question, but since it's sharing and about community engagement, I see very similar things that we do. So I would want to just share a little bit on what we're doing. We piloted the first phase, and we call it final year projects for MSMEs. So I think we stumbled into having quite a lot of cooperatives as MSMEs to a project we worked with German partners, GIZ. So we had to train our students, about 800 students, for entrepreneurship skills, and the strike came. So with the COVID and the strike, we had a project before us, and we didn't have the persons to train. And we had already signed a commitment. So the team, myself and my team, we decided to look at the community. So that was what took us to the community. So we went to the community around and into cooperatives, a lot of cooperatives with women, and we discovered that the state, Niger State, where the university is located, has the largest concentration of shea trees. And these women are still processing a lot of things with their hands, using mortars and pestles. They do a lot of kuli that you see come quite here, granules, biscuits, cakes, and shea and soya beans. So we got thinking about that. So having made those commitments with the women, when the school came back, we just knew that we have to bring the school and the community. So that was what brought about final year project for MSMEs. So we have a forum like this in discussion with the cooperatives. They bring out their problems. And before that, we reached out, the center, the Entrepreneurship Center, we reached out to the researchers. It was a general email to every researcher. We'll have this forum. So if you're interested in such, you can come. So some of the researchers were very eager to come. And they were in that forum and listened to the cooperative members. What were their immediate problems? The naira and the dollar, you no longer can get these things. So we need... So the very first cooperatives that we worked with were the Cosmetic Formulators Association. So they did that, and then we listed out a lot of things they wanted to do, and based on those research topics, it was given out to the students. So just in January before the graduation, we now had a pitching and a harvest, so we called it a pitching. The cooperatives came, and the students came to pitch their projects before the cooperatives. And it was so heartwarming to find out that the students, the young ones, can meet the needs. So I feel there is so much in Africa that relates to each and every one of us. Why we're looking for big industries, we're looking for internship for our students, there are things that they can solve. So right now we're in talks with Association of Private and Public Schools. What are the schools? What is their problem? We have Department of Computer Science, we have technology education, and there is so much they can do. And I couldn't really believe it. It was really mind-blowing, because it's like a seed you planted and you're wondering what will come out of it. So on that pitching day, when they pitched, getting these emulsifiers out from some of our plants that the cosmetologists could use, they were saying, wow, they couldn't really believe it too. And I felt it's beautiful to share. We can as well incorporate, because I've gotten quite a lot from here. So I should also share this. Final year project, working with cooperatives really makes a lot. So the cooperatives can have their meetings. In their meetings, they can outline the things they think these final year students can do. It's no longer time to do these projects and leave them in the shelf. So the thing is that we write a commitment. We do the project for you. You take the project, but we'll be taking feedback from that project. So, and the researchers also agree that, okay, you've built this thing, you get your grades, If you want to see it, even if assessors want to see it, you can see the posters, and we can give a call and say, someone right there is using it. So someone is already using it to do kuli instead of just building it and putting it in the shelf. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was a gentleman by you in green. Okay, yes, okay, please do this quickly so they can respond.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is David. I'm from University of Energy and Natural Resource. I want to speak on the lines of a bit of politics and then a bit of diplomacy.
Yeah, David, you need to do this quickly
okay,
so that we can respond.
I'm just giving a contribution.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I think there is something we should also begin to focus. Since it's a West African hub, we should start beginning to think of how we can incorporate and build a strong partnership with the ECOWAS. The reason I'm saying that is because the ECOWAS has data already. In fact, as I speak to you, the year 2012, in between 2012 and 2013, they even conducted some survey among the member states' universities who are part of ECOWAS. In fact, they had ECOWAS experts in education, and they conducted these surveys. And in fact, they attempted to do this survey in order to get information to optimize the comparative advantage of how this member state can benefit from the ECOWAS in terms of funding and other things. There are other programs, e-learning, in terms of girl child education and other stuffs, of which the data are there. In fact, this morning I wanted to even prompt Mr. Edward so that seeing some of the data, we could even get it from them. Okay. And as we do that, because they have a treaty, because these member states has treaty through the ECOWAS, and so it gives the warrant for the organizations and then that of the public institutions to enjoy from the ECOWAS. And on that ground, it gives them enough policies to protect them. And then in terms of getting foreign aids and improvising certain conditions among the free intercontinental or the states. So I think that as we are going forward,
yes,
we
should explore connecting strongly with ECOWAS.
With the ECOWAS, and that of the East Africa. Okay. East Africans also have economic community of, I think, East Africa. They should also connect from that ground.
The East Africa ECOWAS.
I think they also have one. And then it's going to do a lot of good to what we are doing.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, too.
There was a gentleman to David's left. I think we'll take him as the last person and then...
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. My name is Kasim Ombatolo. I'm from Barara University of Science and Technology, Uganda. And I can say I traveled all the way from East Africa to here specifically for this session when I saw community engagement, and one of the panelists here presented something that's dear to me, indigenous knowledge, harnessing indigenous knowledge system. In my university, with the help of the World Bank, we are running a center that harnesses the African heritage, which is indigenous knowledge, with regards to medicine, traditional medicine. But the question I have for you, and now that you have engaged deeply with the communities then, is how do you decolonize this construct that, especially for the elites in this room and also that we left outside there, that anything good must be Western? How have you been decolonizing this elites of ours? Okay. Because we know that even something good can come from our heritage. For example, medicine. Who can tell me that he or she never used herbal medicine or indigenous traditional medicine when they were growing up in West Africa here or East Africa? Mm-hmm. They did. Mm-hmm. But when they grow up and they are elites, they think nothing good can come out. They can rather pick money from their pocket to go and buy Chinese traditional medicine. And this is what we have been decolonizing in my university. We work with traditional medicine men and women to standardize their products into modern medicine. Okay. And majority of you elites woke up at the time of COVID. That's when you say, oh, it can actually work. And now we have a lot of allies in within the elites from medical practitioners, but also the elites in other sectors. So my question to you, and we shall continue to discuss then, is how have you managed to decolonize these minds that are caged in a Western construct? Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you think everything good is Western, you haven't tried pounded yam and egusi. But Bruce and Frank.
Thanks so much. I think on the question of how have we decolonized minds, I think it's a process, not an event. And I think it is the notion that we have to insert our knowledges in the discourse. I love when the colleague in Kenya spoke about epistemic humility, because that's part of the nature of the African rich tradition. But assert it in a way that it stands its ground with rigor, with robustness. So it's required us to do the work you do, that you are doing now. And then for us to collaborate, and I'd love to connect with you because we're busy. My colleague is here around the corner. We actually, on our one campus, one of our plots are now for indigenous medicines and then exploration and how do we support. And it goes to the knowledge democracy. Whose knowledge matters? I can tell you I've got a granny from a rural area that has managed to put 2 children without an income to become great engineers. Are you saying that granny has no knowledge? How are those knowledges brought to the table? How are those knowledges respected when they are at the table? I think that's the decolonial project that we can be part in. Why are we fighting? I think a challenge of still imposition around demands of how things should happen, and while we find in our voices and we carefully collaborate and facilitate, but I think every generation has a responsibility. Some people argue my generation didn't do too good when it came to post-democracy. So you can correct to call me you IUPs, you correct, we must be clear, I know where I stand in my contradiction and my tension. Because to us it's about truly the transformation of society, and we see ourselves as one actor in an historical moment as well. So we don't claim, even in the work that we do now, to fix anything, but we claim to make meaningful contributions. It's impossible for us to fix anyone. It's like this notion that you have the solution on your own is problematic, and that's a colonial university mindset. Yeah. But when we come together as a hub, when we come together as our communities have shown over centuries on this continent, we are able to resolve in multiple forms, some productive, some unproductive, and we have to critique some of those unproductive type of interventions. My last statement, Jude.
Yes, Bruce, you may have to do that quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
No, just 30 seconds. Yeah. Do that.
The last 30 seconds is never forget our students come from communities. They don't arrive from any other place but from communities. Thanks.
Frank, so I think yours was a tuition.
Yes, tuition, and about that. In fact, I think I will write on the back of what Bruce just said, to answer the second question first, because it's a question of, mindset. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about people from the community now mixing up eventually with students of the university.
Yes.
Now, what we have in place, will I say what we have in place or what is a natural thing? Was the first one is the pupils are not being given this program outside the university, but in the university. That's one. And then secondly, they actually mix with the students of the university in the course of just receiving their program. As a matter of fact, I challenged our students when they said, Mr. Wiggle, we would like to teach these pupils some things. I said, yes, go ahead, teach them. He said, no, we want you to announce it to them. I said, no, I will not announce it to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want you to first befriend them.
Yes.
Let them trust you and see what happens. See, how do we befriend them? Serve them. Mm-hmm. How do they serve them? They ensure that the lecturer is in class and all the multimedias are available for them. That's the second one. Eventually, the pupils trusted the students. They relate like mates. Then the third part was, this program goes on every Saturday.
Okay.
but it only goes every 4 Saturdays.
Okay.
There are some months with 5 Saturdays. So these months where we have 5 Saturdays, the 5th Saturday is always booked for an NGO that has that, cultural thing to teach students or pupils. I'd say that one of the founder of one of those NGOs, yeah, she's a member of my faculty. Who's on my place? Stand up. Let me recognize you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
She runs an NGO, Rock Street. They did a lot. One was, give them an onboarding program of, this is what you are going to meet in the university.
Yes.
And secondly, this is what you experience in the first year of the university. You'll be meeting different kind of classes.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, don't be scared of the computer. It's an equipment for you to use.
So the transition becomes a little less rough than it would.
Exactly. So, and then, because of that closeness and bonding they have with the students of the university, the students are able to integrate them into some of the, extracurricular things in the university. One of them is our Yemisi Museum, Yemisi Shillong Museum of Arts. The students, they go on excursions into this museum and, they see African civilization. They might be in the rural area. I tell you honestly, some of our rural areas are losing touch of our civilization. So they go to the museum and afterwards they do sports. Yeah. So to answer your question, my brother, by the time they come in, they are already
part of that family.
Part of the family. Now, to answer your first question about scholarship, yes, it's only tuition. One thing you must understand is that in PAU, you can stay on campus, you can stay off campus. Okay. And we are talking about people who are in this community, so they can easily access the community. In addition to that, there is a program in PAU we call the Work Study Program, where you can actually work, be a student, work and earn stipend.
Okay.
Which is substantial.
Good.
Thank you.
So on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to Frank and Bruce for sharing. I think this is just the beginning of this conversation. We are here, I think, for a few more hours for today. Let's keep talking about this and hopefully making more impact, co-creating with the communities. Thank you so much. And it's an honor having you, sir, our friend from Uganda. Thank you.